Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Wednesday, September the 11th, 2019, 18 years on. And I have the great honor and distinct pleasure of welcoming back to the Daily Coin someone who I greatly respect, the work that he's done over the years, the analysis that he's put together, in particular around the economy. And you just heard a great show with Kenneth regarding the economy and the Federal Reserve. He's back. We're going to cover the precious metals and we're going to take a deep dive on what's going on with gold and silver and the miners. Kenneth, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back on the show, Rory. I think it's time to strike while the iron is hot. A lot of people needed to see this turnaround in gold and silver, but the opportunity is astronomical, if you ask me. I mean, I know we're going to get into it, but look at these prices that we're seeing now. I mean, we may not see them for too much longer going forward here. So strike while the iron is hot is what I'm telling my readers right now, and get ready for what's going to happen going forward.
I agree completely, and we have a lot of ground that we're going to cover, so we're going to jump right in.
Till now, but I think we're starting to see a big turnaround in the precious metal sector, and that's very exciting for gold investors.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to get your thoughts on what's happening with the precious metals. They've so far 2019 has been an outstanding year, and today the metals were beat down yesterday, but they're trying to recover today, and they've actually gotten gold below 1,500, and it's trying to get back to that mark right now, and silver. They got it below 18. They got it well below 18, but it's now climbed back up. It's back above 18. It was up above 19 for a short period in the early part or the late stages of last week. Where do you see gold going, and what do you see happening with silver as well?
I mean, we got a situation where retail demand is up like 400%. With this, 16 trillion or $18 trillion of negative yielding debt, and then, $30 trillion of real yielding debt out there, that's a situation where, gold and silver are going to react very positively. I mean, Russian central bank is continuing to buy gold. I think, the latest purchase was 300,000 ounces of gold in July. I mean, that's absolutely huge. I mean, they're getting ready to basically have a gold-backed ruble.
Yes.
I mean, and while the West just continues to trash gold. I mean, J.P. Morgan is, the biggest enemy for silver and the precious metals market. I mean, so many crooks work at J.P. Morgan to continue to manipulate what is going on here. But with this massive demand coming for gold and silver, I think the SLV, Rory, on an annualized basis, they're buying like 500 million ounces of silver right now. I mean, that's huge. And,
Yes.
Considering only 1 billion ounces are produced every year, really only 30% of that billion ounces are supposed to be for investment demand. The rest is really for industrial.
Right.
But we have this massive investment demand that's getting poured into the precious metal space. And you can only manipulate it so long when you have all this real buying taking place until you have an absolute shortage. And, just even without talking about the manipulation, I mean, silver is so far down below its 2011 high. Gold is still very materially below its 2011 high. But what's exciting about it is that we are now in this upward move. And I think a lot of people needed to see, $1,500, $1,450 gold and, $18 silver. I mean, really get up to like $20 silver to feel like, hey, we're confident, we're comfortable believing in this bull market for the metals. I mean, I know a lot of people wished, oh, I wish I bought at $1,300 gold. But I mean, that's like saying, oh, I bought at $3,000 Bitcoin, you know, when I could have bought at $1,500 Bitcoin. But look, now Bitcoin's $10,000. So, I believe gold and silver are destined for much higher. I mean, be very conservative. Gold's easily going back to $2,000, and silver's easily going back to its all-time high of $49. And just those price targets alone, I mean, would be huge. And if you take a step further and go into the precious metal sector for mining stocks,
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, I mean, we're talking about, if we see silver go from 19 to 30, $40, I mean, these mining stocks could go up 1,000%. I mean, 5, 10, 20. I mean, there's some that are going to go up even 100 times where they are today because the profits on these mining companies are going to go up exponentially. The net asset values on these projects with a higher gold price, with a higher silver price, is going to be extremely leveraged in this time. And now is the one of the reasons why we're striking. I mean, we wrote a special report which talks about some of the picks that we've had and ones that I think are going to do very well here in 2019, and especially as we continue forward in this gold and silver bull market. And we wrote that at crushthestreet.com/4W. And I'll give you one of the picks here. I mean, I strongly believe in First Majestic Silver. It's a Keith Neumeyer company, one of the only primary silver producers. So many uses for silver, right? But there's only like a handful of companies that you can buy that focus on primary silver companies, and there's only so many vehicles. And honestly, First Majestic is one of those ones that when silver moves, it moves, and it moves big. We've already seen it move very, over 100% this year, and that's with just a very immaterial move in silver, if you ask me. If we
Yes.
have a move from 19, 18, 19 to 30 or 40, I mean, this could go up 4 or 5 times in my opinion. So that's what I'm looking for in this space. And I mean, all these things that we're talking about when it comes to this unsustainability, liberalism, debt, interest rates, I mean, this is all going to go back to, again, something else we talked about, and that's fundamentals. Gold and silver have been money for thousands of years, and that is not going to change. And I mean, I'm super excited about this. I know the last time we talked, we were in a depression for precious metals
Yes.
practically. I mean, it was just, nobody wanted to hear about it. And here we are at $1,500 gold. It's a much different environment. And I think, again, we needed that. For a lot of people, they just hated it. But I think seeing this now is giving people more confidence that, hey, we're in a time where things have changed, and I believe it. And just because you missed $1,300 gold or $1,200 gold, I still think we're in the very early innings of what is to come in this commodity super cycle.
Well, I just went to the Federal Reserve's Minneapolis website where they have the inflation calculator right there on their homepage. And you go to, if you just search Minneapolis Fed, that it'll come up. Their website address is really funky. But I put in $49 for 1980, which was the high back in 1980 for silver, and it calculated that it should be at 149 today, $100 higher than it was in 1980, and it's struggling at $18. And I put in $800 for 1980 for gold, and it should be at 2432.
Wow.
So
Well,
you can see just from their own admission, just based on inflation, according to the Federal Reserve, the manipulated numbers that they produce themselves, according to their own manipulated information, gold should be what, 7 times higher than it is, and silver should be about 7 times higher than it is, and gold should be almost, well, about 75% higher than where it is. I mean, come on.
I love simple, clear facts like that. One thing that should be known is that precious metals holdings only represent 0.5% of U.S. investments right now, which is nothing.
Nothing.
At the height, going back to 1980, I mean, it was 8% of total investments in the space. I mean, but the mean or the median, the average that we've seen over the years has been around 2%. So just even going back to an average holdings of precious metals, I mean, it would be astronomical what we would see in the price of gold and in the price of silver now. And I love just simple things like that just make our decisions on what we do with our money very clear. We can't predict that gold is going to go to $10,000 exactly or $5,000. But what we can do is use information just like that, just like what I just said about current holdings of precious metals and overall portfolios, and say what is likely to happen over the next 5 years, and you make decisions like that. That's how smart people grow their wealth over time. They don't try to have these perfect predictions. They just stack the odds in their favor. And that's something
Right.
that we've done. That's something that I do, and that's what I try to share with my readers.
Yeah, and you do a great job of it too. I mean, and it's really incredible. And I failed to mention that this is based on 2018 inflation and manipulation, not 2019, because the Fed waits until they have a full year of information in order to calculate the dollar's loss of value properly. So the $800 that was in 1980, that's 2432 in 2018, not September of 2019. So that number is going to be significantly higher. Well, maybe not significantly higher, but it's going to be a little bit higher. We're going to be approaching $2,500 gold, according to the Federal Reserve's own numbers, before too awful long. I mean, and $160 silver, according to the Federal Reserve's own numbers, before we know what happened. I mean, that's just the way that it's going to be. It's not, and like you said, Kenneth, I mean, it's simple, it's clear, it's right there. I'm not manipulating anything. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just telling you what the numbers are. That's it.
Absolutely. And I'll give you another simple example in something we did this summer that we're in right now. And when we saw gold move in May, gold really outpaced silver. A lot of people were like scratching their heads as to what's going on with silver. We saw the gold to silver ratio get out of whack, 90 something. And that's just a very simple way to go, what, gold moved. And we know this ratio is out of whack. And we put alerts out, in June to say, hey, you know what? Get ready for silver to move because this is not right. And sure enough, we saw silver really start to outpace gold, in July, where, silver was having its day in the sun and just playing catch up. I mean, it was such a simple thing for people who have just watched history and just kind of pay attention to the markets to know that silver was going to have a move just to catch up to gold. And sure enough, we absolutely did see that. And that was more of a short-term situation. But if we do see this bull market continue to move forward, I mean, silver going up to its all-time high of just nominal all-time high of what, $49.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to have to more than double to get there. Double and a half practically. Gold going back to its all-time high. I mean, that's really only what a 25% move at this point, 25-30% move, which is just goes to show you the leverage and the opportunity that there is in silver as compared to gold. And I mean, I'm with Eric Sprott on this. I think silver
Yeah.
is going to be the investment of the decade, especially when it comes to conventional investments. I mean, silver is pretty well known, even though a lot of people don't invest in it. It's not like this, new startup or something that might come out and give somebody a 10,000 percent return on something, that came out of nowhere. I mean, this is a very well known, well established, has 5,000 years of history, which I think is going to make people, boatloads of money because of how crazily, manipulated things are and the transfer of wealth that's going to happen into this metal.
I agree completely. As a matter of fact, I've been saying since December of 2017 that silver is going to the mid 30s by 2023. We're 4 years from that right now, and we are well on our way to that. And that gold was going to be north of 1700, and that once these levels are achieved, that they're not coming back. That's the other part that people need to understand is that as gold and silver move higher from here, I don't think that they're ever going to come back. I don't think that I think that we're done with $13 silver and $12 silver, $10 silver. I think that those numbers are now history. Just like I think that $1,000, 1,100, possibly $1,200 silver or gold is now in the history books. I don't think that we're ever going to revisit those numbers again, unless our system completely changes. Now, if our system completely changes and the Federal Reserve note is no longer part of it, then of course that changes everything. Then we are measuring in something completely different, and we very well could be. I mean, I'm not ruling that out, but at this point, as of right now, I think that the Federal Reserve, the ingrained uh, mafia organization that it is, I don't think that it's going anywhere anytime soon. Not in my lifetime, anyway. It might, but that looks unlikely. So,
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And it's an interesting thing because, one thing I'd add to this whole thing is because we're dealing with this race to the bottom situation globally. I mean, you have countries around the world, with negative interest rates, right? The
right,
Germans, the Greeks, or, well, I know the Greeks actually have a similar 10-year bond as the US. But, they're like, more problematic. That country is more problematic. Which country would you rather lend money to, the US or the Greeks? I mean, I think most people would say, the US. And it's because of that, and I bring this up, that it's possible that in the short term, in the interim, we have a stronger dollar going forward while gold goes up. Because what I anticipate happening is a global problem, a global meltdown where the US dollar becomes the safe haven and gold becomes the safe haven. So there's this demand that happens for both in the interim, which again, gold normally trades inversely to the dollar. I mean, that's when things are normal. But I believe that, when we do have this implosion, the US in the interim will be the safe haven because of this race to the bottom, because of the cleanest shirt in the basket of laundry type of situation and conventional wisdom, if you will. People are conditioned to think that the US is safe. And so it's because of that there's a situation where we could have the dollar rise, get stronger while gold goes up. And I think a lot of people are going to be scratching their heads as to why this is happening, but I think it's very possible. And it doesn't stop me from holding gold, even if the dollar got stronger, because I know gold's going to have a lot of investment demand that comes from it. And by the way, I mean, we're going to, into the Indian wedding season,
right.
Chinese New Year coming up, in February, uh, Chinese harvest, where a lot of farmers go out and they buy gold, they save their gold. And I mean, there are just some cyclical annual patterns that we have going into this end of the year here,
Yep.
which is good for gold on an annual basis. I mean, that we're talking about these black swan events that are going to transfer wealth from the financial system into gold. But I mean, just on an annual basis, I mean, we got some positive things happening to look forward to that should support the price of precious metals here going forward.
Yeah, I think over the course between now and March of 2020 that we're going to see some significant uh, rise in both gold and silver. And as you mentioned, the Indian wedding season coming up, and that's just around the corner. And excuse me, that will go on for a couple of months. And as India is already shifting from gold to silver because of the price, that's going to impact the overall investment demand for silver. And like you were saying early on in this portion of the conversation, Kenneth, that you know the investment demand side of silver, that pie is a small portion of the overall. There's only so much, and when you so it has to come from somewhere. So the investment, as the investment ebbs and flows into uh, silver, then there's more or less for industrial, and industrial is what drives it, and investment is a secondary aspect of silver. So now investment is going to begin creeping into or slamming into the industrial portion, and that's going to create some stress and strain. And when you have stress and strain, you have things moving higher because of demand, period. And that's just the way that it is. So I see that. I see the Indian wedding season having a direct impact on that over the next few months. And I think that we are just now starting to see the beginnings of the next leg of this gold and silver bull market. I think that we're entering into that, and where it's going to be much higher from here. Both gold and silver are going to be much higher. Once again, just gave the numbers from the Fed. So
Well, look, all markets climb a wall of worry. A lot of
yes,
people are, frustrated with themselves for not owning gold at $1,300, right? Or less, right? I mean, we have had the opportunity to buy as low as 1150.
yep,
And so, there is a big move that we've seen since it bottomed out in December of 2015. But it's still in that phase of worry. What is going to happen? But there's going to be a point where we go into the frenzy stage of the bull market in gold,
yep,
and we're going to see mining stocks go up, 50% a day. 100, I mean, there's going to be a massive
yes,
moves where we get into this frenzy stage where, call it silver $20 going to 25, going to 30, and people are like, well, shoot, I mean, it might be $40 by the end of the week.
right,
I mean, we're going to get into that frenzy stage, and I think people are going to be more excited about $35, $40 silver than they are 19, $18 silver because of the investor psychology. I mean, we can go back to 2017 and look at the Bitcoin bull market and look at how investors treated that. Everyone hated Bitcoin in 2016. They questioned it, through the summer of 2017. And then, people were like, well, if Bitcoin's going to 100,000 from 15,000, that was very possible based on the price action, right? I mean, it was moving up $1,000 a day.
right,
People had no idea where it was going to stop. And so we were like, well, I want to catch a piece of this at 15,000, watch it go to 100,000. But that's the psychology of bull markets.
right.
Markets have a way of washing and rinsing investors. And I point everyone to that because I want people to keep that in mind when it happens in gold and silver, and to appreciate the prices that we're seeing now before we go into that frenzy phase, because it's going to
Exactly.
happen.
It's going to happen. I mean, that's just the way that it is. We don't know when it's going to. I don't know when it's going to happen. Maybe you do, but I don't know. I know that what I said a minute ago is that I'm looking at the window between today and 2023. And that's the window that I've been looking at since 2017. So 2023, I think, is going to be where we're going to see some things change. And I think that by the time that we hit, you know, these higher numbers that we're just talking about, I think that people are going to be really shocked. And it could be that these metals just continue to climb for a little while, and that frenzy could get completely out of control for 18 to 24 month period. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
You
I
know
mean,
what,
and sure don't, and
Rory?
don't base
And it's
anything on
I
what
think
I'm
that's
saying.
happening.
Yes.
There's one thing I'll mention is I think that's happening. But one thing that I will have to appreciate is the ebb and flows of the gold bull market, like we're seeing now. Like this pullback from what 1550 or whatever gold was at
Yeah.
not that many days ago to where we are now. I mean, this is very positive for
Yes.
a slower and steadier bull market. This is more sustainable. Like if we see gold go to $3,000 tomorrow, I mean, we could see a massive correction, before it continues to go higher. It's going to be
Right.
more volatile and it's going to burn more people because people are going to jump in at higher prices to watch it correct further, rather than having a slower stair step up,
Yep.
with higher highs and higher lows, and it just happens a little slowly until we do get into that frenzy phase, which is going to happen. It's going to be super exciting for those of us positioned, and I mean, we're going to be able to look back at that and tell our future generations about the 2019, 2020 bull market that we saw in precious metals.
I love it. I love it. I'm very excited about where we're at and what is just what we're looking at, what's coming just around the corner. I mean, this is very exciting times right now, and I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful for you, Kenneth, and for all the incredible information that you've shared with us today. And I could carry this conversation on for much longer, but you and I both have things to take care of, and so does our audience. So we've been speaking with Kenneth Ameduri, and you can find all of Kenneth's great work over at crushthestreet.com. And tell them a little bit more about what you've got going on over there, Kenneth.
Well, thanks again for having me on the show, Rory. Appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing. And it's always nice to talk with somebody who understands me, because we are in a world of unconventional wisdom. You and I, we talk about things that the majority don't want to talk about, and that's what Crush the Street was founded on. It was founded on free thinking, not this controlled media bias that we get from CNN and MSNBC, which constantly lie to us. I mean, look at what they're doing to Trump, right? I mean, Trump had to go through the Russian scandal only to be find nothing on him, and then they're pivoting. CNN is pivoting literally to racism. They're like,
Right.
okay, that didn't work, so now we're going to pivot to racism, and it's just a complete lies, complete misinformation that we get from the mainstream media. And my goal is to report unfiltered, unbiased news and information, and help people advance themselves, with their health, their wealth, their spirituality, and to live happy, successful lives in this world of complete misinformation, manipulation, artificial sustaining coming from our leaders. And you know what? There's ways to do that. And that's what we talk about at crushthestreet.com. And again, if people haven't, I would encourage people to go to crushthestreet.com/4W. Read that report. I mean, it's a timely thing. If you're looking to get positioned in precious metals, I mean, take a look at that report, especially here, with what, $1,500 gold. We saw this pullback now. Now is the time to be looking if you want to accumulate on this dip. It's an exciting time. Again, Rory, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you very much. And the links to that report and to Kenneth's website will be in the description box below. And look for our link to BitChute in the description box as well. And I certainly appreciate everybody's time. Thank you, Kenneth, and I look forward to speaking with you in the not too distant future.
Thank you, sir.